Hello, everyone. I'm back with the strong and the wise. My objective with the strong and the wise is to bring up strong topics and discuss them, but not only from the vantage of something tremendous occurred in life. Moreover, it's about how do we maneuver and operate through those most difficult times or wonderful times. A lot of tremendous things will happen to you throughout your life. You will find yourself in places and with people where new experiences are abound. So, with the strong and the wise, my objective with this podcast is to take some of my lifelong experiences, as well as the experiences of some of my guests that I will be calling in on the shows in the future, have them to share with you their experiences, and you can superimpose your life, you can superimpose your activity for the future, your plans, your circumstances in which you find yourself. You can superimpose and put that right over it like it's an overlay for how you should maneuver in life. It's an interesting topic in itself, being stronger and wiser. Yes, for those of you who are asking, it takes courage, a lot of courage to be strong and wise. This is not an overnight sensation where you wake up one day in the morning and you're wise all of a sudden, or you're strong all of a sudden, or you're making better decisions. Everything you do in life, and I mean everything you do in life, and oftentimes they're so desperate for some type of relationship or friendship or familiarity that they tend to go blindly into circumstances with people. And oftentimes, and this is the part we'll discuss, oftentimes they just withdraw from society altogether and start spending more time in their apartment or in their home. And they find themselves, at a loss for company, somebody to just hang out with them and have some fun. So, where do we come in? I want to talk about when you're at home and you've withdrawn and resigned to that existence for a while. Doesn't have to be for all time. Or you're alone with your children, and they may be of the age where they can't quite defend themselves. At that point, it's important for you to understand that it'd be a great idea to know what to do in your home to stay safe. At night, when you go to bed and you hear that bump in the middle of the night, you should be familiar with those sounds. not only familiar with those sounds, you should know exactly what they are. So you're not jumping up every few minutes looking to see if someone's in your house, or afraid walking through with a baseball bat, or just put your head under the covers. Any of those kinds of actions, or I should say reactions, are not going to do you any good if someone were there. If you were in a dangerous situation, chances are it will not do you any good whatsoever. So let's talk about what would do you some good. So, of course, now that's scary. Home invasions can happen in any neighborhood, and it's not just about losing possessions, it's about your personal safety and surviving it as well. Now, for women living alone or for small families, the stakes feel even higher, because without that, and I'm just using it in a proverbial sense, without that man there to say, "Roar, I'm going to protect my family and my home and charge," and have that response mechanism built into most men to respond to a home invasion. I didn't create our society this way. Our society was this way before I got here. And since I'm here, let's take a good look at it, and so should you. Now, self and your self-defense is probably one of the smartest things you'll ever do. It keeps you alive, and it keeps the people you most care about alive as well. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in chat so you have it. There you go. So that's shield. So let me explain to you so you'll understand. Um, let's talk about the first, the S. What does the S stand for? Okay. Secure your home. How do you do that? Your first line of defense is your home itself. When you're trying to secure yourself, look at your home objectively. And simple things like installing quality deadbolts on all of your doors, reinforcing your windows with some type of a security film. They do have it that can make your windows much stronger. And of course, adding cameras and doorbell cams and they're just like game changers these days for safety. People who know they're on camera will be less likely to invade because they know they will be, of course, filmed and that will be used against them. And they know it's streaming. Most of these services are streaming, so it will be worth $40 or $50 a month to have an installed security system in your home, like a Ring or something like that. It takes cameras and work with the family in order to keep tabs on who's going outside, who's coming in, who's watching your place, where your car is parked. All of these things can be surveilled through these kinds of devices. So you may want to look at this. Most burglars spend less than 60 seconds trying to break in before they give up. Less than 60 seconds. So if you have a defense system that can keep somebody out for at least 60 seconds, you're on good footing. And the likelihood of you being invaded, your likelihood of you being burglarized, reduces greatly. So you want to look at that in that context. Make sure you have motion sensor lights around your home. That's something that's very inexpensive. You can find them. You can turn on your lights all over the house and then put them on your motion sensors. And your motion sensors, when you turn them on, they will shut the lights off and keep them off until somebody walks through or somebody moves. So your lights will automatically come on. So you'll know right away if someone's in your home by the brightness of course, your home. And when somebody's walking around, they won't know it's there. And if they do know it's there, in order to disarm it, they have to not only disarm your electricity, but if they can't do that from the outside, which would be more than 60 seconds, they then have to disarm you or disarm the device once they get into your home. And chances are then they're going to go through all of that. So that's very good that you know about these things so far. And it's okay if you don't know. Now you do. Make sure you have motion sensor lights around your house. Darkness is a burglar's best friend. Do not give them that advantage. Also, don't forget about landscaping. Keep bushes and trees trimmed so they can't be used for hiding spots. It's all about eliminating potential threats before they have a chance to act. Now, the H. Secure the home was the first one. The H. Have a plan. If someone does break in, what's your plan? A place to retreat to where you can lock the door and call for help. Something other than nothing. Think about it. Not when you're in the heat of the moment, but all the times you need to think of having a plan. Have a phone charger and an extra phone stashed in that safe room or that closet or that space you're going to go to. So you'll be able to talk with the police in a quiet manner or call them or communicate with a neighbor but of course, 911 is your first bet if you're in the United States. But if you don't have that luxury, definitely communicate with a neighbor or a friend and let them know what's going on in real time. Set up family drills. If you live with your kids or you live with your husband or wife, teach your kids what to do if someone tries to break in, where to go, what to do, how to call 911, how to stay calm. These things can be life-saving in a crisis. Now, I didn't mention this in the beginning, but I'm a former U.S. Army Special Forces Green Beret, also U.S. Army Ranger. And I know a whole lot about combat and fighting and self-defense. And I'm also a third Dan Gojuru in karate. So I'm talking to you from an expert point of view of what to do to keep yourself safe in your home. Everybody wishes their parents would sit back one day and would have said, son or daughter, this is what you do when somebody try to break into your home. So from an expert's point of view, who's been involved in close-in combat and a few other things in my life, and I'm here merely by the grace of God still on this planet, I'm trying to teach you or share and impart my wisdom and policy for being prepared. And this is a cursory kind of teaching, if you will, for this particular podcast. We can get into more depth in future podcasts, and if you so solicit. Now, these family drills that you set up, you have to teach your kids what to do if someone tries to break in. And in that context, contextualization for everything you do is important. The biggest problem with people when they have mistakes being made for incompetent reasons is they don't practice, they don't train, they don't involve one another to an exhausting measure. Remember, people will only ever do to you what you let them do to you. And if you're prepared for them not to do it to you, they won't. It's just that simple. So, how do you call 911? Beep, beep, beep. You should blindfold your children if you have one of those push button phones, or if you're going to use your cell phone. You should blindfold them, not blind them, but blindfold them, of course, and make them dial it or try to dial it even in the dark. Because you don't want your phone light to be popping on the minute you hit the emergency button. So you may want to reprogram your phone not to do that, so the light isn't seen, unless you're in a dark enough place where the would-be burglars or invaders can't see you. Then you're okay. Now, the I, so we have the S, which is, of course, secure your home. The H is have a plan. And now invest in self-defense. Shield. That's very important. You don't need to become a black belt, but taking a few self-defense classes can build your confidence and give you practical skills to fend off any attacker, no matter their size. You will find that the smallest person in the world, if they're focused and they're not trying to be a victim, because victim mentality does kick in when people get in your face and you have to start fighting. But if they're not in that victim mode, they can be a deadly weapon. The smallest of person, a child, a small woman, a small man, for that matter, can be a deadly weapon. But remember, whatever you do, whenever you get the vantage, and I try to teach our patients over at Norm Therapy and our clients, I try to teach them, and my Norm therapists mostly do this now, but what to do. What is your response to just about any kind of circumstance now that you've learned courage and you've learned a bit of trust in yourself and you understand the potential outcomes of your circumstances? I always tell people circumstances will always dictate the outcome of every situation. You put yourself in crappy circumstances, chances are something crappy is going to happen to you. You put yourself in great circumstances, chances are something great going to happen. It's up to you in those moments. So back to self-defense. Now, martial arts or any kind of modern day craft, jiu-jitsu, you name the art people are training for. They have aerobics kinds of martial arts these days. It's just as effective as anything else. But you don't have to be an expert. Remember, whatever you do, when you're in that situation, let's say somebody walks up to you and they decide to just start choking you. There are 1,000 different ways. I just lied, maybe 100 different ways to get out of that chokehold, no matter the strength. You'll be amazed. So you go online, and I'm going to have some prepared for you, some links for you at the end of this, and it'll be on the recorded version on my site, on my YouTube site. But you'll have some examples of self-defense that you can use. But a simple understanding that the most vulnerable points in a human are your eyes, if you can get to them with your thumbnails, and hopefully you have fingernails. It's your bottom of your chin, right up in here in your chin area. If you punch straight up in it, I always put my hand like this and go straight up in here. Or you use the ball of your hand, the base of your hand, and you take that and you, as hard as you can, extending your arm completely out, go as hard as you can upward, right in here. And you can do that either under the chin or at the nose if you want to get a quick effect. If somebody grabs you and think you're not going to do something, you can also take your elbow and always go over top somebody's arm and come down on your elbow while you're going into their face with that. You want to use as many tools as you possibly can when people come up and confront you. I can sit here and teach you 20 or 30, but that's not the point of this lesson. The knowledge is the point of this lesson. And in the future, I will have experts. A couple of good friends of mine own their own dojos around the world. My old sensei owns his dojo. They would be more than happy to do a video and help you through this. And I'm going to make sure that's a part of what we do with the Strong and the Wise. We bring those professionals in for the topics that we discuss, and we have them come in and we have them demonstrate for me and you to ensure that what I'm telling you actually works and you can see it in action, and you can make sure that you're not as victimized as you possibly could be, or not victimized at all. And whatever you do, if you get the upper hand on a would-be burglar or a criminal or an abuser, if you hit him or her, because there are a lot of women out there who are abusers as well, but if you hit them and burglars in that spot and it has effect, do not stop hitting them in that spot until you incapacitate them. Don't stop. If you kick them in the balls or their gonads or in their nuts, if you kick them in their private parts, listen very carefully. Do not stop kicking until they are subdued. Whatever you do, don't do like the movies and put your weapon down and go, "Oh, honey, are you okay?" Hopefully we don't really do that in real life. But no, keep your weapon at the ready. Pay attention to your assailant. Be vigilant at all time, but be safe. And no matter what happens, if that person moves again, kick them in the mouth, kick them in their rear, kick them wherever you can, punch them, hit them with a baseball bat, a tire iron, or whatever you find. Because if somebody has the nerve to come up to burglarize you in your home or at your car door, they can hurt you. And their intention is to do whatever they have to do to get your car away from you or your home or get into your home. So be careful with that. And we're going to have many discussions like this in the future. And I will have some experts from Special Forces, Delta, British SAS, CIA, all kinds of folks that I've met and dealt with over my life that I will invite to the show and have them bring to you the knowledge. A lot of these people are retired, but they are still experts and very deadly and working all over the world in different other capacities than the ones I just mentioned. Anyway, remember, if you're comfortable with a firearm, if you're investing in of course, in your self-defense, if you're comfortable with a firearm, and this is not easy for a lot of people, have one. But the first thing you have to learn about any firearm is respect for the firearm and its safety. You must learn about your weapon, not only take it apart and put it back together and do it almost seamlessly from opening up a pack of gum and chewing it. It should be indicative of that kind of effort. Although I don't chew gums, hopefully that analogy made it for you. But if it's as simple for you to break down your weapon, clean it, put it back together, rearm it, and put it in a safe space or place, be it on your hip or in its lockbox or on a high shelf, if you can do that with ease, then you can have a firearm. But there's nothing in the world like a firearm in the hands of someone who knows what they're doing. If you have an idea, a good idea of what you're doing with a firearm, you are an effective weapon and you can keep yourself and your family safe. But there's also likewise nothing like it in the world when you don't know what you're doing with a weapon, because somebody like me will take it from you and I will use it against you. If you have enough nerve to pull a weapon on me or a person like me, I'm going to take it if I get a chance, and I promise you I'm going to use it. This is in the same frame that, or the framework that burglars and thieves and criminals operate. Their interest is very sole. Their sole mission in life is to do whatever harm to you to get whatever they want from you. So if you pull out a weapon and you've not gone to the range and learned safety, learned targeting, learned triangulation, learned how to even to hold your pistol. Most people take their entire finger and they stick it in the trigger well and they go pow, pow, pow. And that is the best way in the world to not hit anything. Pow, pow, pow. Why am I saying that? All you need when you pull the trigger is place the very tip of your finger, just the very tip of your finger on the trigger. That's it. All you need to put your on the trigger, and instead of curling your finger with the whole finger around the trigger well, which turns a weapon to the right or to the left, when you pull it, you just twist the weapon so the bullet goes over here instead of this way. So you just put the tip of your finger and you firmly put your finger on the tip without pulling the trigger, and you have to have a lot of practice at the range before you get comfortable with that one. But as minute you have a firm grip on your weapon and you pull it straight back towards you. So when a bullet exits the chamber, or the projectile, or whatever you guys are calling it these days, when the projectiles exit the chamber, they're going to go in the direction of that pull. So if my pull is straight back towards me, the bullet's going to go straight out in front of me to my target, wherever I'm aiming. So if you're comfortable with a firearm or knife, some people are pretty good with knives and they don't even know it until they practice. There's a certain way you hold the knife, so read up on it. Find you a good knife instructor. Sometimes a knife fight is better to have than a gun fight, even if they have a gun. Sometimes you can get in close before they even pull it. Listen to the guy in the next stall. Talk to one of the firearms instructors that are normally at these gun shops and at these ranges, and ask them to take you back there and familiarize you, or sign up for some of their classes, or go online and look at some special operation kind of guys, special forces, Delta, these kind of boys who go in there and get things done in a way that's very effective. Now, you'll never be up to that level if you don't belong to that community, but at least you'll have great teachings behind you, and you can utilize those teachings in just about any circumstance. Law enforcement, military, that kind of training is something you want to pay attention to when you're using weapons, because they're more effective. And that's it. That's it about guns. I don't want to talk too much about it because I do love guns. As a matter of fact, I love weapons. I love rifles, scopes, submachine guns, machine guns, you name it. I just love the whole thing. I was a demolitions expert in special forces, along with weapons expert in special forces. So when I was on the teams, and then of course later you'll learn more about me as we go along. I went to OCS and became an officer and did some other stuff for a while, and I'll tell you about that sometime in the future. So make sure you know how to handle a gun properly, or a weapon, I call them. You'll hear most military and very disciplined people about firearms. You'll hear them say weapon a lot, more than guns. But I'm just, for the sake of this podcast and the audience, I'm looking at, of course, saying the types of terminology and weaponry that most people would be accustomed to. So keep it secured but accessible, and always prioritize safety. I can't stress safety more. A lot of people get online and try to tell you to do something, and then they end up shooting themselves or cutting themselves or hurting themselves because they're not even practicing safety, and they're trying to tell you how to be safe. So you have to be vigilant. Pay attention to whom you're speaking. Pay attention to whom you're listening to about your own safety. Make sure that they have the credentials and the bona fides to do that for you, to help you along that path. Now, pepper spray has been very effective for a lot of people, but I know some folks, you can spray them in their mouth and face, and they'll look at you like you just put perfume on them, which perfume works as well, by the way, for most people. But don't make pepper spray and those different quick remedy things become your only kind of defense. If you can't use your hands and feet and teeth, I mean, at, last resort, bite. Always bite. Nothing else, bite. I was talking to a guy the other day. We were kids, and we got into a fight with a bunch of guys at a park when I was a kid. And wow, I reminded him that this big guy, 2-3 times as big as he was, picked him up and bear hugged him. And so what did he do? He bit his nipple right off his chest, and that stopped the whole fight. I mean, he bit it off. I watched him do it. And I'm saying that to you because he wanted to survive even as a child. And he knew that he couldn't outbeat this guy. He knew he couldn't outbox him. He knew that he couldn't do anything but get in as close as he could and bite him as hard as he could. We ended up calling the guy Tony the Tiger after that. I'm not, no joke, no exaggeration. As a matter of fact, it was my brother. We were fighting. I didn't want to give out his identity, but there he is. We called him Tony the Tiger thereafter for the rest of his life. Stun guns. The biggest problem with stun guns for me is that some people shock themselves. Or they go online and get these apparatus where you doom, 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 and then they hit one of them, and then next thing you know, they're out in almost like an epileptic fit. That's dangerous. If you don't know what you're doing with stun guns or pepper spray, please do not try to handle them. Get expert advice, somebody to help you understand where to put it, where to store it, when to use it. Have it on a keychain. Is it in your hand while it's on the keychain as you're walking? Or do you have your phone in your hand? Or do you have your phone in your pocket and your pepper spray in your hand? What kind of activity should you have associated with the types of defense that you're going to be carrying around? That's very important. Most people don't think of those things until it's time to use them. The biggest problem in life is not being prepared for something when it occurs when you should have been. So be prepared. The biggest problem with stun guns I was going to mention is that I've watched people and talked to them, and they'll say, let's say we're on the phone, we're on a Zoom call. And I say, so what is that? And they go, that's my stun gun. I'm taking it with me. I'm like, wow, really? Okay, cool. Is it charged? And they go, ooh, let me check. And go to check it, it's not even charged. Doesn't even have a charge in it. People just think the charger sits there and it waits and for you to be ready. No, you have to do maintenance on your weaponry. You really do. You have to conduct some type of maintenance where you look at your self-defense tools and you say, these are the things that are going to keep me alive. So I might as well make a log. Like I checked my stun gun on Thursday at 3 o'clock. I checked it on Saturday at 5 o'clock. Have some type of a log so you know that you kept it charged and you kept it useful throughout periods of time. That way, when you walk out the door or when someone breaks in or something happens, you definitely will have it at the ready and not wishing you woulda, coulda, shoulda. I think the cemetery is full of people who thought what coulda, woulda, shoulda. Full to the brim, the cemeteries these days are. That's important. So, in your home, you might want to consider keeping items like a baseball bat. I love bats, but most people don't know how to swing them. So, if you're not good at hitting with a bat, don't use a baseball bat. Some people swing a baseball bat like they're swinging a wet dish rag. It's not going to hurt anybody. So, if you don't have a strong or good or precise swing, you're trying to hit somebody in their chin or their cheek or the side of their face, but yet you keep hitting them in their shoulder. Chances are you shouldn't be swinging a bat. So you get yourself a dummy bag, hang it somewhere, and you paint a face on it, and you hit that thing in the face, that dummy bag, as often as you can and as precise as you can, and get harder and harder and a better swing at it and a better. Next thing you know, you go play softball with the company game, and next thing you know, you're hitting home runs out the field. But you can definitely hit the people where you're trying to hit them in case you need to protect yourself. That's very important. If you don't practice these things, if you just learn this technique, I got around his arm and I went up his chin and I did all of this and I flipped around. You learn that and you never practice it. You never continually train yourself or push yourself. If you don't do this, you will lose it quickly and you will wish you had listened to me today. Okay, now that's, of course, the investing in self-defense. Now, evaluate your surroundings. There's a term back in psychological operations, as well as military intelligence, as well as in special forces, and most of your elite organizations in the militaries and police. And it's called situational awareness. Situational awareness has to do with being 360 degrees and omnidirectional in your security. Omni means everything all around you and everywhere. So omnidirectional. So everything around you, you must familiarize yourself. And the only way you can become familiar with your surroundings, and you're not an expert at it, but you can become one. But the only way you can stay familiar and abreast to what's happening around you at all times is through a process. To lock the doors as soon as you get in. That should be your elbow just touching on one of the areas, and it should lock all the doors. And if it's not, you should have the dealership or someone program it to be that way. So now you're in your vehicle. So you have to now take that key from your hand that you had at the ready, and you put it into your ignition. You start your car, always surveilling, always looking around, always taking a look left, right, forward, look in your rearview mirror, look in your side view mirrors. It's called scanning your horizons. You want to scan your horizons all the time. Every time you go outside, you know, okay, there's a neighbor cutting their lawn over here. The dog is running. That's a new guy in the neighborhood that's walking that dog. I know the dog, but I don't know him. That lady just moved in the other day, and back over here, they're still mowing their lawn. Are they walking toward me? Are they walking away from me? Are they walking away? You're constantly surveilling. So when something out of the normal happens, you're ready for it because you know what's generally occurring right in front of you, that there's no threat. But as soon as you indicate that there are threats or one prevails as something you should pay attention to, you will know it. That's very important. Once you, in your situational awareness, know your surroundings, inside your house, outside your house, the smell of a guy cutting his grass. Let's say you don't recognize him, but the mower's on, but he's standing still, cutting the grass. Ask yourself, do I smell the cut grass? Do I smell it? And if you don't smell the cut grass, where you normally would smell because somebody's cutting their grass, and grass always leave that distinctive odor of being cut. As a matter of fact, it's a toxin that grass actually, it secretes a toxin that tells you that you're hurting the grass, believe it or not. That's that smell. It's the grass saying, you're hurting me. I did a little study on that some years ago, and I thought it was fascinating. But it lets off this odor. So you notice quickly that it's been cut. Some people will stand there and act like they're doing something, but those smells and sounds and movements are not indicative of what people who would normally be doing that activity. You are now alerted. So if you get these alerts, do not ignore them. Evaluate your surroundings is a concept for one reason. So once you evaluate and are clear about your surroundings, and if something happened that's an anomaly or outside of the ordinary, then you know how to react to it because you've paid attention. And even if you don't know how to react to it, you'll figure out a way to react to most problems in the world if you're aware of your surroundings. If you're aware of what's going on around you, your amygdala, which is your threat center in your brain, along with your prefrontal cortex and your frontal lobes, and even in concert with your hippocampus, all work together in your brain to keep you safe, to keep you, they work in concert. You know, your threat center, your amygdala, was designed not for that fight or flight crap that people are talking about. Now, that's for people who really don't give themselves that much credit. Let me give you some credit. Your amygdala works as a threat center. It indicates to you that there is a looming threat and that there's something you're going to have to do. The adrenaline will start to pump. You'll start to get that light coat of oil of sweat on your body. You may shake a little, which is not a real good idea in a terrible set of circumstances, but people do that and they still operate very well. So don't let that be something that deters you from taking care of yourself. But all of these things work together to hone your senses, to show you the problem, and then prepare you for dealing with it. It's not designed for you to freeze. Your threat center is not there when you feel it. You go, oh, what do I do? I couldn't move. It's not there for that reason. We've been taught that in our societies around the world to be a pacifist and not, do anything about, get slapped and turn the other cheek. We've been taught this garbage. And if people would even read those passages in the Quran or the Bible or the Bhagavad Gita, or the Torah, if they would even read the verse, the whole verse, because they all have it, it says, I think it says something like, take a slap on the cheek, but hold on to your sheath. Means grab your knife. Take your slap, but grab your knife. But we're not taught the extended version of anything where we have to be violent or we have to, protect ourselves. Again, the cemetery is full of people who couldn't protect themselves, full of them. So we don't want to be a part of that crowd now, do we? So be careful when you're evaluating your surroundings. Now, you have to always, another thing about inside your house, I want to mention about surroundings, is you have to keep your doors and windows locked. Even when you're there, you will go crack your window to get some fresh air. If you don't stand right there in front of that cracked window while that air is doing a whole house exchange of getting all the bad air out and the good air in, if you don't stand there and watch that window and that living room window and go back and forth vigil of both of them, you are setting yourself up to fail. Because people are waiting for people to open their windows this time so they can just jump right into your home. And it doesn't matter what you're doing, they're going to take control. If they're bold enough to jump into your home while you're standing right there, they're bold enough to kill you, hurt you, maim you, or whatever. So if you're not paying attention when you do that, never, not these days, never open your window and walk away unless you live in such a neighborhood where the security is so high, that's not something you worry about. And very few of us, compared to the rest of the population, can do that. I know I don't want to sound like Billy Badass, but sometimes I say to myself, I wish he would just come right in. You may never leave, but I don't want to be that antagonist. I don't, but I'm at a point in my life where I've learned how to respond. I can't beat everybody, but I can outshoot and outmaneuver most. This I can. So, and most people with the skill sets that I have, they're not going to burglarize you anyway. So I'm not worried about somebody better than me trying to attack me. You have to remove that fear from you. So if you're trained in any way whatsoever, you're going to do well with protecting yourself. And that's why I'm doing this impromptu type of Strong and the Wise episode. So I can just talk with you, hopefully viscerally connect with your needs and desires to be safe and remain safe. I think it's very important. Now, we talked about, of course, we talked about inside the house, outside the house, your car, and this, that, and the other. But social media presence, be careful. Now, I argue with everybody online. When I say argue, I don't mean like in a nasty, but I'm not afraid. I don't back down. And I like to think I can articulate just about any issue. So I have fun when I do it. Most people don't know how to do it. They create enemies that know where they live. They know where they live. And they create enemies and all kinds of idiots. And they wonder why people are, breaking out their windows at night or driving by shooting at them. All of these things happen because people are unfamiliar with how to conduct themselves on social media. And sometimes they'll leave flyers, burglars. They'll leave flyers and notes at your door and say you have a package down at the office. And all they're trying to do is get you to get outside of your house. And they just jump right out of their car, maybe hold you to gunpoint, put you in their car where somebody's waiting for you in the van, waiting for you to hold you, or they just simply walk into your house, take whatever they want, and then they beat you senseless while they're in the van. And they put you right out on the street, right in front of your house, and just drive away. It's so simple to burglarize people and to attack people these days. These assailants are no joke. People get scientific when they want to screw you over. And they'll just figure out ways. Heard about the scam the other day, just so situation awareness, you'll understand. Right now, there's people all over the country going up to your door with a package in their hand, with a UPS or some type of Amazon insignia. Look like the legitimate person. And they have a package in their hand with, your address on it, your name, because they probably went through your garbage and got all that. Or they went through your post box area where they have normally a garbage can right next to all the post box where they just dump the mail that they want. They have all that information on you. Just by doing that, never put your mail there, by the way. Take it home and shred it, cut it into a million pieces, and then put it in the garbage, just as a point of reference. And what they'll actually do is they'll take that package up to your house and ring your bell. Hi, ma'am, how are you today? Here, you have to scan the package. It has a barcode or one of those little graphs with all the wiggly lines in it. And it says that's the barcode too, but you know, the different kind. And they say, okay, you scan this package and I can give you your gift or your prize. It doesn't have a return address, but it says there's a gift and a prize inside. And people stupidly go and get their phone, and that's stupid, and they scan the package. And the moment they scan that package, that barcode is designed to take all of their information, to take all of their banking information, to take all of their pictures and videos and everything else, and put links right back to their servers somewhere in the world that's currently waiting for you to either turn your computer on because they have all your passwords or all of it, at least to your social media. As soon as you get past your entry in your computer with the password, they got you. And as soon as you turn them on, they're already there. They're already sucking down all your information. They're already inside of your computer. They're sending all kinds of Trojan horses to you. So you got to be careful with that because it's stupid to go to the door and get a package and you scan it for the person or the delivery person. Nobody in the world scans anything for the delivery person. He scans it into his system and says, here's your package. But because people are so excited about this prize or they lose their situational awareness, they think that, oh, yeah, let me go ahead and scan. If you don't know the barcode, do not scan it. That's all I can tell you. Don't do it or you will have a life of problems. I always keep my barcode things, everything off whenever I'm doing anything. So there's no accidental anything about barcoding. It can be very dangerous. And until they come up with foolproof systems that will ask you a myriad of questions before it gives that information up, and they're doing it. They're coming up with it. They're doing it. But definitely don't do it. Somebody asks you to scan for something or ask you for information you should be asking them for, then you know that's a red flag. So situationally aware, be that person. So consider taking an online course or watching some tutorials about scams. And because there's never a reason not to be prepared. Never a reason. The D in SHIELD, the last letter, is don't ignore your instincts. So we have SHIELD stands for secure your home, have a plan, invest in self-defense, evaluate your surroundings, learn basic survival skills, don't ignore your instincts, and secure your home. Okay, well, SHIELD's with the S in it. This is about securing your home. So don't ignore your instincts. This might be the most important of all. We all get these things called gut feelings. We say, oh, my gut told me not to do this. And I almost did it, but something told me not to walk under that. Or I almost drove that way, but I turned the other way because I just had a feeling. When you ignore your gut, you're ignoring your intuition. And I do believe that's everyone's sixth sense, their intuition. They just don't use it. They don't believe in it and they don't trust it. You ever find yourself saying, I think I'm going to go and do this. And then whatever it is you said, you think you're going to do, you go do it and it's wrong. You say, I think I'm not going to do that. And whatever you missed and you should have gone, you would have had a better time or made money or did anything else. This happens a lot in the lives of people. They doubt themselves, and this is why this occurs. So don't doubt yourself. Be committed before you make a decision to where you're going to go and what you're trying to achieve. So do not ignore your instincts. This might be the most important point of everything I mentioned today. It's something feels off. If it feels off, it probably is off. This is what most people don't want to believe. They're so mesmerized. Look at all the pretty people. They got beer and they got food. And while I'm here, and they forget their instincts. Like, don't eat this food. It doesn't smell right. I'm not using all of my senses. Or don't drink that drink he prepared for me. Drink the drink that you go prepare yourself. These are the kinds of things we don't think of once our senses are overwhelmed with a good time or a bad time. We don't think about the rest. This is important. So one of the most important things you can do in life is pay attention to your own intuition. You know, when you take that test in school and you mark C, and then at the end of the test, you go back and change the D, and you were right all along because you didn't trust your instincts. And that happens 80% of the time. If you go change an answer, 80% of the time, changing the answer is the wrong thing to do, statistically speaking. So don't change that answer. Live with the consequence of what you've decided, and you'll get better at it. As I said, with the spontaneous right action, within, of course, the conceptual framework of the decision-making process. You have to do that in an omnidirectional fashion all the time. That's a whole nother, I can do an hour on just that. Whether even like sometimes neighbors can be just too friendly, like too inviting, too much of a person that want to know your business, but they give you vague details about theirs. Or they talk you to death about theirs, soliciting through conversation and a type of conditioning they're trying to apply. They're trying to get you to start talking like a water faucet as well. And my advice is the first 6 months of any relationship with anyone you ever meet, other than your children, the first 6 months with any relationship, be it you and your banker, you and your mailman, you and your husband, you and your potential wife, you and your girlfriend, you and your teacher, you and your whomever, it doesn't matter. Every relationship you ever have are two things. One, it's an exchange of power. You give people powers, they give you powers in those relationships. We'll talk about that another time. But in every relationship, the first 6 months of what you do in that relationship is normally false. It's BS. It's garbage. Everybody puts on their P's and Q's. Everybody says around, oh, honey, I love you. It's so amazing. Oh, my friend, you and I are going to get along well. Oh, let's go. And whatever that facade, which is a temporary personality, that's created for that introduction or that person in your life, take the first 6 months and see that person, really see that person. Let them see you and stand up and don't be meek about it. For the first 6 months, take everything they say and everything they do with some level of circumspection, some level of wonderment that you really want to figure it out and find it out and not just take their word. Because after 6 months, you're going to know how they fart, how they walk, how they break stuff. You're going to know if they got a good attitude, how they treat waiters and waitresses, how they treat your family or you treat theirs, how they treat your kids, or do you want to have a kid with this person? You're going to know more about them from their raw selves. If you don't do that, fall in love, have great sex, do all that you're going to do. But you don't want to do all that fall in love crap for about 6 months. And just remember, that's a part of situation awareness, but it's also a part of don't ignore your instincts, because you have a clear mind. If you have a clear mind when you're meeting someone or with them, you will always be vigilant. You will always be aware. And very few people can manipulate and or take advantage of you as a result. But living in a home alone or with children or in any kind of vulnerable state, even with a man, there are a lot of pacifist men out there. If you break in their door, they may scream louder than you and the kids. That just happens. They're cowards, or maybe not cowards. Maybe they never learned to fight. Whatever the situation may be, the people breaking in your house, they learned to fight. They took some lessons on the streets or in the gym or wherever they went and learned to do what they're about to do to you. So it would behoove you to do the same thing. Go out and find out. If you want to protect your family, men, you really need to find out what you need to do and how. And if you want to protect yourself, you still need to do the same thing. You're not trying to kill anyone. That's not your objective, but you may have to one day. You never know. Somebody may walk in your house and your gun's right next to you, right in that little pouch, right next to your couch where you're sitting in your man cave. And all you have to do is lift your weapon and just shoot him. But if you don't have what it takes to shoot him or her or them, then chances are you're going to die or you're going to be hurt or somebody in your family is going to die or be hurt. So you have to start making those kind of micro decisions now, even though they're major decisions, but on a micro level. You need to start thinking about it, making it a part of how you live and how you operate now. So when that fateful time comes, and I hope it never comes, when it comes, you're ready to jump into action, spring into action, and do something about the situation instead of just be a victim. This is the whole point of SHIELD. So SHIELD is basically secure your home, have a plan, invest in self-defense, evaluate your surroundings, learn basic survival skills, or even advanced. Don't ignore your instincts. SHIELD. Very important. So, all right. That's a lot to digest for this hour. And you can't afford not to take this seriously. Try to implement these tips with SHIELD. That mindset of protecting yourself and the people you most care about. Whether you're single mom, whether you have kids, whether you have a husband living with you, you all should understand self-preservation, because that's the number one issue for anyone on the planet is self-preservation. Staying alive, staying in the game, and being protected. Even if there's no one there to protect you, you have to become the shield. You have to become the weapon for yourself. So if you have any questions for me, put them in the chat. If not, this will be stored on each one of these sites. You can look it up at any given time. This is one of those impromptu discussions I wanted to have, and so I just put it together and did it. I'm going to start doing my podcast in the afternoons, Eastern Standard Time in the United States, probably around 5 or 6 p.m. before dinner or after dinner, maybe even 7 p.m. I'll probably start doing this particular podcast, and I'll start inviting some pretty strong people that you will recognize, quite a few of them, onto the podcast so I can build that momentum and traction. Invite people when you see me advertising online for our podcast, and to help us grow it. And I look forward to seeing you all soon. I hope you got something out of this. So stay strong and stay wise. And I'll catch you the next time on The Strong and the Wise. Thank you very much. And if you have any suggestions for me on topics we should cover, because I'll talk about anything, to be very honest. Bullying in a workplace, school yard bullies. I'll talk to you about online theft. You name it, I have a myriad of conversations we can have. So thank you very much. Talk to you soon. I'm Michael Gibson, your host, and these were my tips on home safety for single moms and, of course, small families. Now, there's another kind of course for larger families and more complex situations at home, but that entails spending a lot of money. That's why I made it for small families and single people, because the security systems and other areas that I'll talk about are quite different. So thank you. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.